Hello and welcome to Perfectly Paranormal, episode 96. My name's Annaschmidt, and I'm here every week to share with you true paranormal encounters and information about devils, demons and dark energy beings that no one else talks about. They truly don't. And today you get a first-hand look at a Tasmanian house healing experience and the changes felt by Maree and her family, who have been haunted by the shushing man, the creepy corner in her daughter's bedroom, and the bursting face man who was dropping his rage all over the house. So sit back and get ready for an eye-opening experience Maree has to share with you. Welcome, Maree.
Thanks for having me, Anna. I'm excited to be here.
You're welcome. And when I worked on your home, oh my gosh, there were so many interesting things. I had to ask you whether you would like to come on Perfectly Paranormal to share your experiences with everyone. Would you like to tell the listeners a little bit about the history of your home?
Yeah, so it has a bit of an interesting history. We bought the house 7 years ago, and it was sold to us on the real estate listing. It was sold to us as having been built in the 1960s, so not a really super old home. But when we moved in, I think we heard from the neighbours, and maybe my brother-in-law who lives down the road might have mentioned to me that this was actually the old schoolhouse in our area. So it dated back, I can't remember the exact date, but it was kind of somewhere in the early 1900s, like 1906 or 8 or something like that. So like quite a lot older than we thought it was. When we moved in, it didn't feel like a home. It had been a rental for many, many years. So lots of different people living in the house. And the lady that lived in the house before us she was a single mother with lots of children. And we just kind of knew the house had the air of a place that hadn't been loved in a really long time. So it felt a little bit neglected. Things were a little bit run down, just not very homely or not very cozy. It was very, very cold. We did a lot of work to the house to make it a bit warmer, but just always felt very cold and very dark. It never ever really felt comfortable and I never really felt at ease anywhere in the house. And that's not to say that I felt any particular like completely spooked out or freaked out or anything like that. And when we moved in, it seemed quite peaceful and nothing was immediately alarming to us. Just over the years, we had lots of different little things happen. So the first thing that happened was that my partner and I, my little boy used to have really long naps in the middle of the day. So on the weekends, we would have these really big periods of time where the house was really, really quiet. I remember we were doing some kind of renovation in the stairs or something like that. Just heard this whistle, a tune, like someone was inside the house. It definitely wasn't from outside the house. Someone was inside the house whistling a tune. And so that was pretty alarming to me. I kind of jumped up and we both looked at each other and thought, that's odd. There must be someone here. Someone must be visiting. My brother's pretty notorious for whistling. So I thought, maybe he's come to visit us or whatever. But we looked around like nothing. And I heard that whistle a couple of times since. So just a happy little tune. So I just kind of put it down to, there's obviously some kind of energy or some kind of spirit here. I've always been kind of semi-familiar with that kind of thing. I grew up in a really old house and we always had like little things happen like that there too. So it's not something that really scared me. I just kind of thought, yes, okay, there's someone here. Another time so at the time I had 2 children, pretty rambunctious boy and a little girl, and the girl was in the walker. And my boy is pretty notorious for picking on his little sister, so he'll kind of do anything he can to annoy her and get a reaction out of her, and he loves it. But it's very annoying. So I was maybe in another room and they were kind of in that room and he was really picking on her and upsetting her. And I just all of a sudden heard this big shh, this really almost aggressive, really loud, clear shush. And my little boy stopped what he was doing and obviously took notice of that. And I came out again thinking that someone was here, that my sister or my brother had come or my mum. But yeah, no one to be seen. So no one around. So we had this shusher in the house. I kind of joked with my sister, who's quite in tune with the spiritual world and that kind of thing, much more so than me. We kind of joked that, oh, you know, it must be the old headmaster of the schoolhouse. So I was actually quite happy to think that I had someone else on my side helping to kind of discipline my little boy. So that was quite I felt quite comforted by that. I thought it was quite funny. It's another time. So my partner is a really big skeptic. He's not familiar at all with the spiritual world, or not comfortable, just not familiar to him. It's just not his thing. So whenever these kind of things happen, I kind of think, oh, okay, this is someone, an energy imprint or something like that. But that's not the conclusion he comes to. He just kind of thinks it's a trick of the mind or whatever. So it's quite hard to convince sometimes. One night I was in bed and I was watching a movie with my earphones in, so there was no sound coming out of my phone. And my partner comes into the room and says, oh, what do you want? You called out to me. And I looked at him and I said, oh, no, I didn't. And he said, yeah, you've been calling out to me. What would you like? And I said, oh, no, it wasn't me. I don't know what to tell you, but that definitely wasn't me. And that was a time that I was scared. That did actually frighten me, because I kind of thought, I don't know, there's something here, my voice, or trying to get my partner's attention, and he heard it. Kind of That was confirmation for me that there was kind of something there and something going on, because it wasn't just me experiencing it. It was him, and he's quite the skeptic. So that kind of drove it home for me. And apart from that, we've had a few bangs out on the deck. I remember it was 2 days in a row I had this enormous bang out on the front deck that actually shook the house windows. And I can't think of an explanation for that. It happened 2 days in a row on the same time each day, and each time I ran outside and nothing, no sign of anything. So whether or not that's kind of part of it, I don't know, but it always kind of struck me as quite odd. I couldn't account for that at all. And apart from that, I always felt, like I mentioned earlier, I just never felt comfortable in the house. Like I'd kind of, if I had to come downstairs at night time and go to the toilet or whatever, I'd run. I'd try not to look out the window. I'd try not to look down the hallway. It sounds horrible actually, but I didn't like going into the kids' rooms at night time, because I always just felt a little bit creepy. They're quite young, so it's not something that they noticed, but in this room in particular, I always felt quite scared actually at times. When my boy slept in that room, so they've chopped and changed rooms a few times, when he slept in that room, and this is something I hadn't mentioned to you, Anna, before, the clearing. And I don't know why, it was just something, I guess, just one of the things in the line of things that have happened in the house. But I would often I would feel a presence in that room and in a particular corner of that room. And one night, as I was putting my boy to bed, I was compelled to say out loud, don't hurt my baby, don't come near my child. And I felt a bit better knowing that I'd said that out loud, and could kind of feel a retreat almost from that energy or whatever that might have been. And that has happened and felt like that on and off throughout the years, that room. So I've kind of felt a bit uneasy in that room. So I guess the reason why we decided to have an energy clearing and approach Chiana and have the house cleared is that I mentioned my sister's quite in tune with the spiritual world, and she always has been from a child. She'll have dreams that kind of come to fruition, and just about little things, and it's kind of just unmistakable, undeniable. She has a connection side, the spiritual side. So we were having a coffee one morning and we were talking about dreams, and my brother and I and my sister had been having dreams that were kind of connected in a way. So kind of, for example, my sister had taken my little boy to an activity, he hurt his hand at that activity and she had to bandage him up while I was at work, so I wasn't there. And she said, oh, this reminds me, just last night I had a dream that your boy hurt his hand and I had to bandage it up. So it's just little things like that I don't know, like it's just some kind of premonition almost. So anyway, it comes to this particular morning and we were having a coffee and I was getting pretty fed up with my boy's room. So in particular, the mess in his room. And he has a toy cupboard in his room that it was an ensuite, but when we moved in, we changed it into a storage cupboard because there's very little storage in the house. And I get really frustrated. I get really tense in that cupboard. It could just be the mess. I hate the mess, but I really was getting increasingly feeling like I just needed to do something about this cupboard. I need to sort it out. It's so overwhelming. Every time I go into this room, I just feel incredibly stressed. And I was having these feelings of rage towards this mess, which was, not really an appropriate reaction probably. So just feeling this incredible out of control rage when I was in that room. So I kind of said to my sister, oh, come and have a look at what my little boy's done to his room. He's trashed it. He's had a friend sleep over and I need to spend my whole day cleaning this mess. And she walks in the room and she looks to the toy cupboard and she says, she almost jumps up and says, oh, I had a dream just last night about this. And she said, I had a dream that you were having an energy clearing on your home and that there was, a dark kind of presence or entity or something dark in this room and in the cupboard. I just trust her. Or she said, well, can I send a picture of this to Anna and just see what kind of impression she gets? And we were kind of waiting with bated breath and we knew that you were working on a big job and we didn't want to disturb you, but I was quite nervous. I felt a bit scared and my sister she said, oh, she checks the messages straight away. And lo and behold, Anna did get back to us and did feel that I was picking up that, yes, there was something off energetically about that room and about that space. And while we were waiting for the clearing to happen, I'll be honest and say I was very frightened to kind of have it confirmed that there was something dark. I'd always known that there was an uneasy feeling in the house, but to have it kind of confirmed for me that, yes, there is something here and we need to have it cleared. My sister was like, you don't need to be scared, it'll be taken care of and these things, they can't hurt you, but kind of mentioned, Anna, that we might hear some not kind of all that kind of thing. And I was so frightened. And I was also aware that because I am a big fan of your podcast and I love to listen to your stories, but I was also aware that these kind of things like to feed off fear. So I had that whirring in the back of my head as well. And I knew that was the case. So I was trying to talk, bring myself down a little bit and just saying, Anna's on it. She'll take care of it. She'll fix it up for me. It's happening and that kind of thing. So while the clearing was happening, I think it was a Sunday night, I noticed that my dog was quite uneasy. So she was kind of looking up around the room. She couldn't settle into any room. She was kind of pacing the hallway and looking around. And it was like she could sense something was happening, and that was very obvious to me and to my partner. He was kind of saying, oh, I don't know what's wrong, what's up with the dog, she can't settle in, she's jumping up off the floor onto the couch all of a sudden, from her sleep, and then she'll jump up and change positions and look around, and he was comforting her, kind of asking her what was wrong. And then I got a message from you, Anna, saying that you had started the clearing.
Can I jump in here for a minute?
Yeah.
When energy beings, whether they're spirits or they're dark or the heavier sort of demonic level entities, when they know they need to move house, as I call it, they will be moving around because they're restless. They're like, oh, the situation's changing. We've been here for 40 years. I don't know what we're going to do. They're just like people who are being evicted from their home. They don't know where they're going to go, what's going to happen. Pets being very sensitive, their eyes are going to follow what you can't see. They're going to move and they're going to look a little bit frightened or timid or a bit shocked because they're sensing the movement of something that they can't see. So pets are very, very sensitive to those changes. And the knocking that you were mentioning earlier, Normally, when I work with clients, I will mention you may get problems with your internet, or there'll be lights flickering. You might have disturbed sleep. You might hear knocking or scratching. Same thing. The beings are a little bit like, oh, we've got to move out, but we don't want to go. But she's coming and there'll be no food left. So they get a
Mm.
little bit stressed that they have to move out, and they're not going to hurt or harm you. It's more their internal stress about, now we've got to find somewhere else to live. Now, your hallway, I remember you
Yes.
saying about your hallway. You didn't tell
Mm.
me exactly where, because it was in your son's bedroom in the
Mm.
storeroom, which was an old ensuite where you had the
Mhm.
sort of the rage and that anger going on. In that hallway, you'll laugh. When I tune into buildings, I ask to energetically enter the property, and then I ask to enter the front door. And I always go to the left. I'm very systematic, quite OCD. So your house is pretty much, you go in the front door and then there's the hallway that goes to the left, and you've got some bedrooms along there. As soon as I went in the front door, I felt myself really sort of angry, disturbed, upset, couldn't settle, felt sort of the rage that you'd been experiencing. And as I move up that little bit of hallway and then turn left into the long hallway where the bedrooms are, I saw a man, because the house will show me people that cause problems. And we've adopted this name for this man. We call him the
Mm.
bursting face man. Because it's the only way I could explain it to you when I was writing it down, is that I saw a man, didn't see his full face, but I saw his eyes were really, really angry. Like he was rageful and angry. He had a big red nose and he just had one of those really red faces. And he had a blue flannelette, like a men's work shirt. And I could hear him stomping up the hallway. He was so angry. And when he showed himself like that, it's almost like I was seeing, the house was showing me what had happened in the past, which is what
Mm.
buildings do. They'll show me the trauma they've experienced and go, please get rid of that. That made sense to me for the rage that you were
Mm.
feeling, because rage was the word that you were using, which is it's more
Yep.
extreme than anger. Anger is just you're moderately upset. You get a little bit angry. Rage is when you're really just so angry you feel like you're going to burst. And his face was so red, like he was just bursting with all this anger. And he used to stomp up and down the hallway, terrorizing his family, really. But yeah, he was really interesting. He was a different character to the one that was doing the whistling.
Yes, interesting, because wherever the whistling was coming from and the shushing, I didn't feel that was negative. I didn't feel like that energy was threatening or anything like that. Like I said, I almost felt comforted by that presence. Yes, and the rage. And I remember the night before my sister had come over, I'd said to my partner that, and it was such a weird thing to say, such an odd thing to say, that cupboard, the toy cupboard, where I feel that rage, I said, that cupboard is ruining my life. A bit dramatic, but I was kind of referring to just the time I spent in there feeling angry and feeling rage about this mess, which is, it's an unreasonable reaction to have to some mess in a
Yeah,
little boy's
yeah.
room, you know. So I kind of like that was odd to me. So yeah, that really makes a lot of sense with this bursting face man and this rage energy that he's kind of imprinted into the home. So,
Sometimes people move into homes and their behaviours change and they don't know why. Their partner and
mm.
them, they never argue. You know, the kids are always happy, the pets are always happy. And all of a sudden, if you move into a home, there's been a lot of long-term trauma or domestic violence or addiction issues, you can pick up, your body is like I call your body like a dowsing tool. Like you will
Mm.
sense, or your spidey senses, your body will pick up on changes in the environment and you don't know what it is. And it's really confusing for the human brain because they're going, is that my anger? Why am I angry? I don't know why I'm suddenly angry. I don't know. I don't cope. I don't understand what is causing this. It's
Mm.
the energy that's been absorbed into the building, into the walls, the floors, the carpet, the ceiling, and it can just take over and sometimes ruin people's lives.
Mm.
Now, your daughter had an interesting experience after we did the clearing. Your sister told me she was
Yes.
so excited to tell me about her reaction to the house being cleared. Now, the principal was moved on, or if he was a male teacher or an
Mm.
administrative person, I think he was
Mhm.
like a senior staff member. So we'll call him the principal. He
Mm.
was moved off into the afterlife. He was more than happy to go. Your daughter had such an interesting experience with the house being different because she has lived there her whole life. And then all of a sudden, it's different. So do you want to share with the listeners how she reacted?
Yeah, sure. It was quite funny. So the next day was the day after the clearing. We were kind of feeling really, I was really feeling really good in the home. It felt bigger and brighter for some reason. It just felt like there was more space in the house. Yes, but my little girl had this really odd reaction. So she was kind of walking around the house, shushing everyone. Everyone who would speak, she would say, shh. She was walking to the rooms and in the doorways saying, shh, which is not, I mean, kids are kids and they do silly things, but it's not something that she's ever done before. So my sister was there at the time with her little girl also, and her little girl was being shushed by my little girl. I don't know. I guess it's just like maybe she was used to this shushing presence, kind of this headmaster telling her that she needed to be quiet.
Yeah. It's interesting
Mm.
because she's always grown up with a shushing man being there
Mm.
and he
Mm.
wasn't harmful. And she might have seen him just like maybe a granddad figure if she saw him or she felt his energy. There was something else in her room.
Well, I kind of didn't put two and two together really until a couple of nights ago, and I guess I've just been thinking about this. She was having a lot of trouble falling asleep in her room. It's not something that it's typical for her. So often she'd like, typically she'd go off to bed. She sleeps in a room by herself and has done since she was quite young. So she's comfortable being in the room by herself. She has a nightlight. But maybe for a month before we had the clearing, she was kind of going off to bed and finding it really upsetting when we would leave the room. And that's not something that I'd mentioned to you, Anna, because I like I said, it's not. I didn't put two and two together. I didn't kind of pick up that, perhaps this was something to do with whatever was happening energetically in the home. I will say the night, it was honestly pretty instant that changed. And she now toddles off to bed and goes to sleep. So whether or not she was just picking up on that energy or that I like I said, I often had that bad feeling in her room. On the report that you gave me, Anna, a lot of the energy imprints were in that corner that I felt uneasy about. I haven't spoken to you about that yet, but that was the corner that I didn't like. And she never kind of, I guess she's little, so she doesn't have the words to kind of tell me if she was seeing anything or feeling anything, but we were seeing that in her sleep, manifest in her sleeping patterns, I guess. But did you find something in that room?
Or my intuition went
Mm.
instantly to that back right-hand corner. Now, I don't know if your her cot or her bed was in that location, but what I'm
Yep.
trying to say is that there was a build-up of emotional imprints in that corner. Rage,
Mm.
anger, hatred, blame. We'd have to look at the report and see. But that's what attracts the paranormal beings. So when you've got dark or demonic beings in your home, they don't care about you. They're just like, we don't worry about the people. What they want to feed off what is in these little pockets of
Mm.
energy that is in people's homes. So this is why when I do clearings, I'm really pedantic about going through each room and not just doing a skim over of the whole house, because there'll be imprints in that room that need removing that might not be in another room. Like it might sound
Mm.
OCD, but it works. And each room I'll check for trauma imprints, which can be verbal abuse, domestic violence, recreational drug energy, alcoholism, stroke, death, falls, accidents, assault. They're what I call trauma imprints because they're an action that creates a trauma. The
Mhm.
emotions create the pools of energy. So you've got all these different vibrations going on in rooms. And sometimes people just don't know why they can't relax or they don't feel comfortable in a room because you've got all this energy vibing out, all these different vibrations. And then you've got the entities that are there going, don't mind me, I'm just going to feed off that hatred
Mm.
that's been there for 25 years. So
Mm.
your house got a full energetic spring clean, as I call it. So your daughter's room will be as clean as a whistle until she starts creating her own emotions or the family go in there. I mean, we all create emotional imprints, but we don't want all the build-ups from the last 100 years being in those rooms.
I guess I could just sense, I could just feel that there was something kind of off about that corner. And I've never put either of their beds there because I felt
You
too
knew.
dodgy.
Excellent.
I just didn't feel right to me. So that's never been it's always just been a empty space kind of. There's never, I've never set up a play area there or anything like that. So I've just left it. You know, the house is feeling beautiful and light and love it.
I'm
Great.
so happy, so happy. This is
Me too.
what I want from people's clearings is, the skeptic, your husband, has he noticed changes? Has he verbalized it?
Well, do you know, I only mentioned to him this morning because I wanted to give him some time. He needs to think about things for a long time before he will kind of come to a conclusion about something. I said to him this morning, I'm going to be on Anna's podcast because the house was cleared a couple of weeks ago. And he said, "Oh, right, okay. What date did that happen?" And I said, "Do you feel any different in the house?" And he said, "Oh, I haven't really thought about it." So maybe over the next coming weeks, he might feel more at ease in the house. And as things kind of settle in and settle down, I did mention to him, and I did when you were doing the clearing, Anna, and how I mentioned that my dog was uneasy, I knew for him that would be a really clear sign that something was going on energetically at that time. So I mentioned to him this morning, "Oh, do you remember that day when the dog was upset and looking around?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Well, that's exactly the time that Anna was doing the clearing." And so I think for him, in his mind, that kind of made a lot of sense and that helped him kind of think about things. I think we're all feeling calmer in the home. It's all falling into place that these things were really affecting us and affecting us as a family. The house was energetically unhappy, but now it's nice and clear.
Now, I wanted to ask you something else. The red velvet chair, has the energy of that improved since we did a clearing on that? If you'd like to tell people a little bit about that story.
Yes, the chair. I'm a bit of a secondhand shopper. So I love a tip shop, you know, secondhand shopping and getting a bargain. So I picked up a red velvet chair. It's beautiful, really beautiful. It's in really lovely condition. It looks like it's quite old. I'm not sure. It would probably at least be 50 years old, I would think, for my little girl's room. So I thought it would be lovely for her to sit down and read some books in there. So I picked up the chair. This was a while ago, maybe a year ago. I'm always aware that things can carry an energy, and even just, you might just call that just a feeling, just a vibe almost. And I kind of said to myself, you love this chair, but if it doesn't feel right, then you can just get rid of it. And I brought it into the home and I popped it in my girl's room and I left it there for 2 nights and thought, well, nothing really creepy's happened. Nothing obvious has happened. We'll leave it here. But I still just felt a little bit creeped out by that chair. It just sat in the corner for a year until my sister, if she kind of picks up on something, she might not kind of say straight away just to save me from feeling scared or whatever. When we booked in the clearing, she said to me, "Oh, that chair, I've got to tell you, I don't like that chair." And I said, "Right, I trust you. It's going outside and it can sit outside. If we ask Anna, like, I'm sure she wouldn't mind kind of just clearing it." And I said, "You know what? I'm not asking Anna. She's doing enough for me already. She's clearing my home of this 100-year of build-up energetic imprint. I'm just, you know what? I'm just going to throw it to the tip." I couldn't bring myself to do it if I knew that it felt weird, because I didn't want someone else to bring it into their home, because they would. It's something that you would pick up. It's beautiful. Anna cleared the chair for me and, you know, you found some I haven't brought it back inside yet, just giving it some time, but it feels better. You might want to share what you found in the chair, Anna. You'll explain it better than I will.
I'll read out what I found. There were 4 entities in the chair, and they'd been attached to the emotional imprints of anxiety, discontent, rejection, panic, paranoia, and there was some rage, distress, hostility. Now, those emotions had been there for When you do dowsing, time frames are never 100% accurate, but I got around about 5 to 6 years. So whoever had sat in that chair or had it in their home, within those 5 to 6 years, they'd created those emotions, and furniture absorbs emotions. Now, there was a trauma imprint in that chair, and this was interesting. The chair didn't show me, but what I felt that there'd been a child sitting in it. Like I felt there was someone sort of cowering or sort of trying to make themselves really, really small in the chair because they were too scared to get up and move because there were people around the chair. The child was witnessing and absorbing physical violence and arguing energy. This is the child and the chair from between two people who constantly fought. The child sitting in the chair at the time tried to make themselves look small and sort of invisible in the chair as to not be seen by the arguing people. Now, when I get those sort of emotional imprints, I can clear those. I just call in the archangel beings and we clear those. I had to talk to the chair about releasing that energy. Like it was happy to let it go, but it had hung on to that energy for quite a long time. But that's the thing. When you buy things in secondhand shops, nothing to stop you doing it, but hold on to them if you can. Or if you're buying a piece of clothing, you're going to try it on, just stand there for a few more minutes than you normally would. How do you feel in the clothing? Have your emotions changed? Do you feel fight or flight mode? Do you feel upset for any reason? And if you're looking at it going, I like this, but I really, really doesn't feel right, don't buy it because it's going to have stuff attached to it. Or buy it and find someone like me that can energetically clear it for you. Thank you for sharing your story about the red velvet chair. I thought people would like to hear that because it's just another aspect of what can be in the home. Maree, thank you so much for being a guest today. I know you were nervous, but you did a wonderful job. Thank you for sharing your house clearing experience.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you for doing the clearing for me. It's amazing.
It was a pleasure.
100% beautiful. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. If you like the content of this episode today, please think about leaving me a rating and a review. What reviews do is they let other people know your thoughts about my supernatural subject matter. People love reading reviews, and we're spreading the word about the real paranormal world around us. I would really appreciate it. So in episode 97, you are given an inside look at the delicate but necessary ghostly topic of suicide souls. Listeners often ask me what happens to people who take their own lives. Where do they go, and is there salvation for them? And I'm going to share with you what I've uncovered through my house healing work and witnessed firsthand when I've had spirits in homes who were afraid to cross into the light because they just didn't know how they were going to be treated. So thank you for joining me today. And don't forget, if you want to share a paranormal experience just with myself, or you would like me to share one of your experiences through my podcast, you can do a voice recording, or you can write out your experience and I will read it exactly as you have written. You can email me at spiritualbeing44@gmail.com. And for information on paranormal house clearing, you can visit my website, Spiritual Being. You will find the address in the description box. And I look forward to sharing this spooky space again with you next week. And remember, life is perfectly paranormal.